So welcome everybody. My name is Trish Pellin and I am here with Kathy Welter, and she's going to be presenting at the Australian Hypnosis Conference. Now, just let me get this right, okay, darling? You're going to be talking about hidden past, hidden present, hidden future, the non-conscious influence. You have to tell me more, because I'm like, what's going on here? Tell me more. Come on, tell me more about it. What are you going to be talking about?
Oh, this is so fun, really, because when you think about it, what you and I were just talking about a minute ago, how much of focused awareness does any of us have in the present moment?
Yeah.
And we're like bling monkeys. It doesn't matter what's popping around us, we're going to watch it, you know?
Like a case of the glitters, like, ooh.
I know. It doesn't matter what it is. A bird flies past the window and I'm like, oh, what was I doing? So the conscious mind has this real capacity to just be distracted very quickly. And when you were sharing that statistic of, 7-second videos on TikTok, I'm like, well, that's probably, kind of where people are at. And that also gives us an indication of how fast the conscious mind kind of not only gets distracted, but lets go of trains of thinking, trails of thought, you see?
Yep.
But what happens for us as clinical hypnotherapists? What happens to the non-conscious that is constantly recording everything? And we're getting hit with billions of bits of information. Not only that, it's having to monitor everything that's going on inside the body. Do I need to take a breath now? Is my heart still beating?
Am I hungry?
My temperature? All of this, And so the unconscious is recording all of this, all of it. All the little 7-minute trailers or 7-second trailers are going into. So that's really our non-conscious, and it is so powerful. It's number one thing for us as human beings, actually for all sentient beings that have a brain, is protection.
Yes,
survival.
Absolutely.
Let's stay alive here. Let's stay alive as long as we can.
It doesn't care about anything else but staying alive.
And that includes food and sex and reproduction and all the rest of the gamut that goes with it.
Yep.
And this monster brain is in there just paying attention to anything that can threaten us. So I like to think of past lives, how we get into past lives in this.
Yep.
I like to think of past lives as our really interesting past life, is our numero uno past life, this life. Everything that's behind me is my past life.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if it was 1 second ago, that's past life. Yep.
And it's not gone away.
It just accumulates like a trail.
Yeah. It's like right there. And so here's the neat part of this hidden past is that any time a trigger gets associated, an emotional, band-aid gets attached to an experience. I think of it like this: get your 5 senses engaged in one specific incident, hold it for more than 20 seconds, and you have told the non-conscious, pay attention to this.
Yep, absolutely.
If this shows up again, we have to light up, know?
Absolutely.
And so that's how we get anxiety and trauma events and all of these kinds of things. So for hypnotherapists, isn't that what we're working with most of the time?
Absolutely. It's interesting you mentioned this, because I'm a huge believer in universal synchronicity. And just last night, I run a class every Tuesday night down at the psychic shop here. And just last night, I was talking to all of these people, and I just said to them, I'm like, seriously, guys, you need to stop and pause. Be in the moment. Go, what am I feeling? What am I seeing? What's going on? And find out, are you being diverted from a situation where it's what you don't want? Or are you being enhanced into a situation of what you do want? There's always a message out there. Just slow down. Yeah. We don't have to be in fast forward or family feud mode where we answer the questions like, it's this. It's like, no, you're allowed to pause and slow it down.
It's so true.
Yeah, so it's interesting you said that, because literally I was just having that conversation with a group of people last night. So yeah.
So there's this other little piece of the brain that's working for us, and it's called inverse reflection.
Oh, tell me more. Yeah.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Well, in order for our subconscious mind to store all this data throughout that incredible unit that is our brain. I mean, when I started looking into the fundamentals of neuroscience, I did some courses this year. I did some stuff with the group down in Australia, the NeuroChange people. And I really sort of paused at a couple of points and went, oh my gosh, this brain of ours is incredible. Like, you really get a sense of how amazing we really are. And it's ahead of where humans are all the time.
Yeah.
It's always ahead of us. It's planning for our future. So this is our hidden future. We're programming our hidden future with our hidden past.
Yeah.
And it's all happening in the now moment. I read a few years ago where children of the future, and I mean, they might have been talking 50 years or 100 years from now, were in a classroom, and it was outside on some meadow, and there's flowers, and they were all studying something together. And the teacher shared how people in this lifetime never spent any time in the present moment. And all these children looked at each other and said, why would anyone not spend time in the present moment? And look where we are, this inverse reflection. I'm going to go back to this. The brain has the capacity to reflect upon itself. Now, we're taught from children right at the gate, right at school, right at the beginning, pick out all the things that are the same. Identify the thing that's different. Here's a whole bunch of bees and bugs and insects, and there's a bunny in there. What's different? We're taught this right at the get-go, and you get gold stars if you get it right. This is training the brain right from the get-go to identify similar and not similar.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we're teaching our children this, and it's just such a waste of time. Identify what's the same and what's not. So now the brain learns this. Well, guess what? When we start learning things at that really, really young age, that now becomes the tree trunk of our midlife and the superstructure of our tree trunk when we're in our elder years. So it gets harder and harder to change that.
Oh, absolutely. And then we stigmatize it with society, like, so I teach about the Jungian archetypes, and, you know, you're not allowed to do this at this situation, or you're not allowed to be like that in that situation, or you have to act like this. And it's like, no, you don't. You need to be respectful, but also comfortable of who you are in these environments, you know. And so many people get stigmatized and become stoic, where they're just been playing out this script because that's what they were told to do their entire lives. And then all of a sudden they reach burnout, and all you have to ask them is one simple question. And all I do is I look my client in the eye and I'll say to them, who is Kathy?
Yes.
And all these emotions just flood to the front, start pouring out, and the answer is always, I really don't know.
Exactly.
You know, and so, wow.
And we are a collage of these past experiences with the brain 24/7 on high alert for when something could be similar. Oh, pick up that. Pick up this. It's just like a game. We've taught our brain this game.
Yeah. And I'm not sure about you, but I know that I go into this a lot. I've been learning a lot about the Arcturian Starseeds as well, and bringing in all of those scripts as such, or those soul contracts from other lives, and then redoing them here as karmic contracts. So learning to break all that down, go into our own natural selves, teaching others that it's okay to be our natural selves, rather than going, don't do that. No, don't do that. It's so fascinating.
Oh, totally. This is sort of going to lift us out of the the hypnosis program, can we blend, or should we not?
Oh, no, we can blend. Let's blend.
Okay.
Let's blend right now. So Kathy is also presenting at the Sacred Summit, and you're talking about, just let me make sure I've got this right, okay? It's at the Shaman? Getting started with channeling and introducing to the shaman inside.
Yeah.
Go for it.
That's where it all is. It's all happening inside. So if we can tune into that, you know, and we are the DNA of our parents, which goes generationally back, and all of that infusion of awareness. I wanted to come to this Arcturus thing.
Yeah.
We got a channel, and I think it was July of, it was a pretty significant one of the gateways, might have been August, of one of those years where there was a bit of a grand cross going on. And we got a channel from Arcturus, an Arcturus ray channel, and they called it an Arcturus ray. Mm-hmm. And so what was given to us at the time, and it kind of went like this, that the people who were cycling on and off the planet were starting to cycle on and off without closing the lifetime down.
Yes. I was just literally reading about that yesterday.
Well, we have this channel.
Yep.
And so if we don't close the lifetime down, and sometimes we do past life regressions, I'm always really careful to be sure you've closed that lifetime down. I did a past life regression when I was in my 20s with a hypnotherapist in another part of Canada. And she was a hypnotherapist who did non-smoking. Yeah. She didn't do this. But I met her and I said, please, I want to try past life regression. Mm-hmm. So I went to her and she said, I don't know anything about this. Anyway, we did it, but she didn't close the lifetime down.
Wow, yeah.
And that really taught me a huge lesson about it, because I was living with myself, now present, and this other part of me, mm-hmm. who was a very different aspect of myself. She had many lifetimes between that one and this one, I'm sure, of kind of retraining and, can I say, getting a little more civilized.
Yeah.
Getting some of those high notes down a bit and leveling off a little. Mm-hmm. And that lifetime, I had to do some, personal work to close and clear it and let it go. It was a bit challenging. Yeah. So it's important to close these lifetimes. So when Arcturus came through, and what we were asked to do is set sort of sit and set a column of light. And we live on Burnaby Mountain, so it's an open mountain, and we go up there for a lot of our work. And so we just sat, we meditated, we opened this channel to Arcturus, and we were asked to leave it open.
Okay, because they're the original ones that opened all this up for Earth. Yeah. So, yeah.
We were asked to leave it open so that as souls were leaving, they could go to Arcturus first and seal the lifetime before they recycled back. Yep. And I had no real idea of what that was about until a few years later for us too. We started seeing some evidence of it in different readings and books and channels that other people were bringing through. That's one of the things that happens with channeling, is in the moment, what you're doing, you may not necessarily know.
Exactly, because it kind of comes around when you're ready for that evolution process or the realization or something along those lines. Like, I do a lot of readings and things like that for people, and I've even had people in hypnosis that have already predicted their own futures. And then when they've come out of hypnosis, they're like, I don't remember anything. And then I've met them years later and they've gone on to go and live out that life, because I'm like, I'm not telling them that's going to happen, because they've already preordained this. They've already got this life that they're living, and this life between lives. And it's just mind-blowing when it occurs, So I was reading about the Lightworkers yesterday and doing a heap of research on that, and they talked about how Lightworkers are Starseeds, and but they're here for a specific purpose. And there's 25 different types of light workers, but they're here to do a specific job. And the one that really broke my heart are the light workers that come in that are children, and they pass whilst inside the womb or when they're just being born, because they have that message for the parents of love does exist, or I was here to show you that we can do this. But then the parent doesn't understand that, and they get so stuck in their grief that they self-destruct rather than going back to that past life when they're ready to alleviate that.
It's so fascinating that you bring that up. Part of my work is I've trained in hypnobirthing, and I'm a birth doula. And so I've had a couple of these, and one particular channel I had on it, because I've met so many women that are struggling with this too. And one particular channel I had on it, and it was literally like the little one was saying this piece to the mother. And so I didn't know whether I should share it or not with the other midwife, but I sent it. And it ended up going out to the whole group of hypnobirthing individuals. And what they called it was the soul's footprints across a heart.
Oh, beautiful.
And isn't that beautiful? And it was like this little infant footprints go across the heart. And the mother always knows the touch, and the soul that touched her is also always going to know her. So I've had a couple of women who've gone through this. One woman I worked with a couple of years ago now, she had a daughter that was 3 and went full term with their son, and he passed about 4 or 5 days before she went into labor.
Yeah.
So she gave birth to a full term, beautiful baby boy, and he was dead at birth. And so for her, she was a pretty strong lady herself, but not very connected to kind of what I would say sort of the spiritual realm, if you will.
Yeah.
And, and a group of her friends kind of got her to come and see me. And so I said, I was just so hands off this, And of course, there were women there who were holding her, and the more you hold somebody that's in grief, the more tears will come. It's just making it so hard.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I know the spiritual backdrop to something like this is very poignant, but is the person who's the mother capable of understanding what's happened, what's gone on? And she went home from the hospital after delivering the baby, and 2 days later, her father passed. I know. And I just thought, I saw the child and the dad. It's like the child and the dad went through together. It was really, really beautiful. Absolutely. And she did end up doing quite a bit of work with me. And then we sort of tapered off into the fall. And then I got a note from her in January. She was expecting again. On she went. Her life was, so we have a different view of birth and death in our Western mindset.
Yes, we do. Yep, we do.
That's a big piece of it.
I met a woman over in Africa many, many years ago, and her name was Vimbizo. And she told me a story that completely changed my life. And she said to me, she goes, I don't understand you Australians. And I'm like, oh, join the club. We don't understand us. We don't even know what we want half the time, because we talk in reverse. We're like, if you say to us, oh, how far it is, we'll say not far. So we talk in reverse. And she goes, I don't understand you Australians. She said, somebody passes and you all go into this really horrible, dark, sad place. She goes, from my tribe in Africa, when somebody passes, they have this huge celebration. They talk about all of the gifts that person gave to the different generations and the influences. She said, we still mourn, but we raise our children to celebrate the gifts that were passed on, rather than to go into a grief state where we just can't function. And I thought to myself, Mike, How amazing would that be to be raised as a child that grief is a natural part of life? It's okay to feel sad, but it's better to celebrate all of
Yeah,
those gifts that they gave you that you're going to pass on
yeah,
to other people around you. And I'm like, how great would that be if we didn't
yeah.
fear it, if we actually went, it's okay for you to leave this body. Thank you for the gifts. Like, I can only imagine how wonderful that feels, sort of
Well,
thing, you know?
that's part of our work in the Shaman Inside. Both my husband and I, we created this, and we facilitate the groups that we've taught this all over the world. We've been all through Italy and the UK with it, and of course here, Sedona, um, uh, pretty major spiritual places with Peru. And what we really have come to the understanding of the piece of work that we're doing is that we're born into this world, into this third dimension, and in order to be in the third dimension, the parents we're born to have to really start to clamp us down.
Yeah, and that's with the
Oh
earth
yeah,
energy is the
no,
density of
don't
it.
see it fairies. Stop with the talking to the friend in the mirror. You know, you've got to clamp all this way down. And so we started teaching the Shaman Inside in Italy. That was just amazing because I was working with the two aspects, both birth and death. I facilitate a lot with hospice and am involved in people that are trans, just, you know. And I was in a couple of hospitals where I'm visiting the person who's dying, and at the other end of the hall is labor and delivery. I mean, they're just like right across from each other. And then another time I was there for a birth, I came out of the hall and all of our group is there celebrating this birth is here, this baby's here. Down the other end of the hall, people are dumping out of the room, all in tears, the person's gone through. So it's like two ends of the spectrum. And yet both are kind of, in that moment, I could see and sense that either side of the gateway, if we call it a gateway, our mother is a gateway for us to come in, and the gateway as we leave. Now, either side of that, there's hands waiting to take our hand, you know? And we're being welcomed either side of it. So this is, to me, this celebration of, and it's harder if it's somebody that you really love, or your husband or your mom or dad, and you've lost somebody that's really been close to you in your lifetime, or it's been a tragic death. I mean, that's really harsh too.
Shocking one, yeah.
But the thing is that on this side of it, as you stand and witness someone's passing, when you're in a hospice environment, it's different. Yeah. You're kind of listening to them as if they're a person. They are, but you're listening to their life story and you're working with them at that gateway opening. It's opening for them. They're starting to see things. They've had some visitors come through. They're seeing bright lights. This one chap I worked with, he had a 4-year-old son, and he was about 40. And he was determined. He was not passing. He was going to go fishing with his son that summer. And so I left the hospital that night, and his whole family was there, and they were all, oh yeah, he's going to be great. Everybody goes home. I get a call at 5 a.m, and he had passed.
Yeah, when it went quiet.
So I went into the hospital to see him, and when the family returned, his little son came. And his little son always liked to play under his dad's bed. He would always go under his dad's bed at the hospital. I'd always look and he'd be drawing, or, 4 years old, playing with his dinky toys, whatever. So at the funeral, I went to the funeral. They asked me to speak at the funeral. So I went, and under his dad's coffin, it's on a trolley thing with wheels. There's this little guy, 4 years old, playing under his dad's coffin. It was just so special. Yeah. And this is the thing with children. They grieve differently. And if we could learn a little from them, he would get up from being under his dad's coffin and go over to his mom, and she would hug him for a minute. And then he'd go back and play.
Yeah, he didn't set up camp there. He just did it in the moment when he required to. and then moved on. So
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful. Well, thank you
Beautiful.
so much for your stories. Honestly, I could sit here and talk to you for hours, darling. I really could. So I cannot wait to hear you at the Australian Hypnosis Conference and at the Sacred Summit. Oh my gosh, as soon as I say that, I get like goosebumps all over my arms, sort of thing. So yeah, I
I'm really
cannot wait.
excited about it.
It's
Yeah.
going to be fantastic. So everybody,
Okay.
please jump onto the link, whether you're coming to the Australian Hypnosis Conference or the Sacred Summit. Either way, both of them are going to be fantastic. Jump on one, jump on both, but please bring your questions because Kathy has answers. She's been there, she's done it, and she's doing it right now. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Okay.
Thank you so
See
much,
ya.
Trish. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
Then we cut. And I'll edit it all and blah, 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 blahs. Okay?
Okay. Alrighty.
Thank you so much for that. Honestly, I'm freezing outside in my studio. I could sit here and talk to you